So thank you, Nabil. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I know it's going to be an amazing day, so I'm going to be very brief. Nabil asked me to really both welcome you and talk generally about the role of women in broadening participation in general in STEM fields. So I am truly delighted to welcome you, and I think it's very important that the base of this conference is, in fact, a global data science conference. I mean, that we are thinking locally, but we are bringing together a global group, and that is obviously critical. We thank our partners, Health EC, Philips Healthcare, and Elsevier, and of course our co-hosting sites around the country, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, and others. And for us, it's very important to think about the relationship between Rutgers, Newark, and Rutgers Biomedical Health Sciences, and we really appreciate that relationship. So as a social psychologist and academic leader, while I've not worked specifically in the field of data science, I have for many decades been actively involved, often through NSF, in efforts to broaden participation for women and underrepresented groups more generally in STEM fields. Collaborating at NSF, for example, on the Advanced program that many of you know, serving on the Committee on Equal Opportunity in Science and Engineering, and very interestingly, from a global perspective, getting very involved through NSF in the International Women's Innovation, Gender Innovation Summits, which have been held now across many continents, starting in Brussels, and then moving to D.C., and then to Cape Town and beyond. And I urge you all to look on the web for Gender Innovation Summits if you want to get involved in what is really a very exciting global collaboration. But what I want to draw on from that today is that based on these conversations, I truly can't imagine a better time or a more appropriate arena in which to tackle broadening participation than now in this exploding field, as Nabil said, of data science generally, but in particular, the application to global healthcare, I think, is really at the sweet spot of where we can see some real changes in broadening participation. So in this vein, I thought I'd take a few minutes of my welcome just to lay out the general case that many of us developed in what we called the Roadmap for Action, which we developed on the Planning Committee through NSF of the third International Gender Summit, which was held in North America in 2013 in D.C. And I want to point to that roadmap, and you can go on the NSF websites to find the reports that came from that summit, because it's really a statement about the intersection of good science and good broadening participation and how connected those are. So let me quote from that up there, if you can read it. A diverse STEM workforce drawing on the ideas and talents of all members of society is critical for expanding our pool of knowledge in STEM. Inclusion of all members of society in the scientific research enterprise is necessary not only for equity, but because it widens the pool of talent, increases innovation and group performance, and increases business performance. And so I want to pause on that three-pronged approach. It's a three-pronged rationale for broadening participation that I think everyone should think about. It goes beyond equity, not that in any way equity is a small rationale, but goes beyond equity to argue that STEM diversity provides access to more talent, and it's an exploding talent pool of diverse potential participants, better solutions to challenging problems, and there's a lot of data now from systems theory and organizational behavior on group performance, innovation being better the more diverse perspectives brought to the table, and therefore better science, better business, and better society. So a three-pronged approach to the rationale for why we should care about women in data science, for example. Now, having said that, as we go on to say in the roadmap, and as you all know very well, women are severely underrepresented in many STEM fields, particularly engineering, physics, and computer science, and they're underrepresented in the highest positions in both academia and industry. So in a sense, we've got a perfect story here. We know the science requires all minds on deck, and we know that we are leaving huge proportions of the talent pool and the fastest growing diverse talent pool on the sidelines. So it's our job to bring it together. And it's our job to bring it together across all areas. It's going to take across sectors. It's going to take smart, motivated women and their male allies. And data science is a perfect arena within which to think about doing that. As the roadmap points out, and that's what the diagram suggests, this is going to take real collaboration across all relevant sectors to make progress. Higher education obviously has to be a leading force in cultivating that talent pool, but it's going to take federal agencies, disciplinary societies, industry, not-for-profits, and communities where universities, as Nabil said, are anchored. It's going to take that kind of cross-sector collaboration that is represented in the speakers here today and in the emerging data science field. And that's why I'm so encouraged by your lineup of women in data science gathering. Cross-sector, intergenerational, multidisciplinary, and that indeed, that kind of collaboration will allow you to share technical knowledge, identify arenas like healthcare that are ripe, in this case for data science applications, create social capital networks among and across academia, industry, government, and NGOs for women in data science. Nabil emphasized that in his remarks, and that's what today ought to do. It ought to spur a whole set of social capital networks, because we know that's how the world works. We know that's how people get ahead. And perhaps most critically, I hope that this cements the interest of and reaffirms the opportunities for participation by the up-and-coming generation of potential women in data science. Many people are getting beyond their potential here. We need a whole new pipeline of women in data science, in healthcare, in the kinds of scientific applications that can make a difference in society. And we need to show that this is a field where people should join. So as someone who's worked in this field of equity and diversity in STEM for some time now, it's really gratifying to see new arenas of innovation like data science and precision medicine, for example, teaming up. So we know from Scott Page's work at Michigan that there's a huge diversity bonus to be had for getting full inclusion, for really bringing people to the table. Scientists are doing better science in collaboration when it draws on multiple disciplines, as Nabil said, multiple techniques and methodologies, but just as importantly, when you get the kind of cognitive diversity at the table that comes from identity diversity. We know that identity diversity, in this case, let's talk about getting more women at the table, more underrepresented groups at the table, brings different experiences, different insights. One of the most interesting things in the Gender Summit literature has been that the number of different large-scale health clinical trials that really have been remade simply by having more women scientists at the table who say, wait a minute, what models are you using to test that on? And it's not that only women will do that, but the probability is much higher the more diversity you have at the table. And that's true in general. And this is important not just because of the breaking the set of groupthink, if you will, the kind of innovation you get when you bring people together, but it's also true because you risk leaving out fundamental dimensions, in this case, for example, the gender dimension of innovation, fundamental dimensions of human experience that really will map, if they are included, onto different innovations and different realizations. So, for example, Nabil mentioned the NSF Northeast Big Data Innovation Hub, industry, academics, coming together. But coming together, for example, around with the New Jersey Cancer Institute on personalized and precise treatments for cancer patients. How are you going to do that if you don't have a representative sample in your big data set? You can have a big data set, but it's going to have a lot of gaps if you don't look at the intersectionality of evidence across race and ethnicity and gender and class. And that's what they're doing. They're looking at broad, not just big data to have lots of data points. It's not really YouTube or Facebook or any of that. It's a systematic mapping of the intersections across dimensions of the population that are often left out. There's no precision in precision medicine if you're not mapping from a full-scale sampling of human experience and human development. And that's why the intersection of broadening participation, who's at the table, what insights are being brought to bear, and what kinds of data do we get from that. And you have a chance in a big data science, healthcare intersection, if you will, you have a chance to show what Scott Page called the diversity bonus. This is very important, and Ira Harkavy and Myra Burnett and I did a set of international workshops for the National Science Foundation trying to argue that really there's an innovation cycle. This isn't just about giving people opportunity. It's about creating better science and doing better on the kinds of challenges that we all face, whether it's anything from climate change to the healthcare challenges you'll be talking about today. There is a cycle of innovation here that is really important to take into account. That is, we can't solve major challenges facing society around the globe without bringing to bear the intelligence of a diverse community of experts, and I would like to argue that some of those experts will have pedigree and some not. So when you think about broadening participation, think not only about across sectors among a set of pedigreed experts, if you will, but think about the experts on the ground who are living and breathing the challenges that you are studying every day. Get them involved. That's what the cycle of innovation is all about. Now, the side piece of this, and I think the sweet spot of all of this, is not just that you produce the diverse teams, which they do, produce better science and better solutions, but quite frankly, these diverse teams will change the work culture of science, both in the academy and in industry and in federal agencies. The more we find that you bring diverse groups to the table, the more you're going to attract a new sense of openness and collaboration. And it's really what will be at the sweet spot of that innovation cycle. A flexible, inclusive, collaborative, cross-sector, purpose-driven research culture will in turn become a self-fulfilling prophecy in attracting more and more talented, in this case women, and underrepresented people in general. So that's how, when you take the frame of data science in healthcare, take that frame and in it think about the ways in which you are actually going to transform the way science is done, not just by the collaboration, but by who's at the table and who you support going forward. So I hope that today and going forward, you will make the kinds of social capital connections that will indeed reaffirm the notion that when you risk bringing a lot of minds to the table, collaborating in territories unknown to any particular expert, then in fact, what will come out of that is not just better science and a better society, but a better time for you in both the academy and industry. So I'm talking to the young ones here, whether young in age or young in career, and saying this is ripe for you being at the table, and you will do the best data science in healthcare if you do it together. Thank you, and have a great conference.